I used to write poetry, and I stopped, I don't know, a few years ago, because I really did want to finish Magnificent Joe. I wanted to write a novel, and I felt like I wasn't giving poetry and prose the sort of the attention that they deserved. So I needed to put one aside, at least for the time being. So I stepped away from the poetry to continue, you know, work on Magnificent Joe. But yes, at one point, especially in my mid-20s, I was writing quite a lot of poetry, and I took it very seriously. And yeah, I mean, writing poetry and thinking about writing poetry was something that really, you know, preoccupied me on a day-to-day basis. So writing poetry is very important to me, as is writing, as was writing the novel. I mean, the feeling of writing poetry and the feeling of writing a novel is very different, and they're not necessarily complementary. I think that they're very different mindsets. Poetry is, I feel like it's a more engrossing, sort of concentrated activity, because you have that very, very close attention to the fabric of the language that's over the course of a very short piece that you're just really looking into. Whereas with a novel, because it's a longer story, it's stretched out over a longer period of time. The process of writing, you're going away, you're coming back to it, you're going away, you're coming back to it. And also the way you think about it is, even while you're writing, you're always thinking about what you've already written and what you're going to write, because there has to be that narrative through it. So that the relationships between what you've written and what you're going to write and what you have written are always there, in a way that with poetry, although you have to consider that, it's in a more concentrated form, because it's all there in front of you at once. You're making a sculpture that has to stand, you know, on its own terms, in a way that a novel doesn't necessarily have to do, because it's strung out over more reference points. I think I'm probably talking rot there, but that's the way it feels to me. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the language of Magnificent Joe, I think, yeah, I am concerned with the fabric of language and the feel of language, the way that it tastes when it comes out of your mouth, the way you can shape it, and the feel of it coming over your tongue. So I read aloud to myself a lot before I write stuff down. So even when I'm typing away on my novel, especially with dialogue, I'm rehearsing that over and over to myself, out loud, pacing up and down the room, saying it, trying it with different inflections, just working out the best way to write what that sonic feeling is, to get the sonics right. So the taste and the way things hit the ear, yeah, that's really, really important to me. So I am always looking for that neat, that apt sort of encapsulation of meaning within language. But the problem is that the more you think about it, the harder it is to find, I think, anyway. And then, so usually the best things are the ones that just occur to me like that, when I'm not even trying. And the stuff when I'm really, really trying, what's the best way of phrasing that, really struggling over just crafting a single sentence, that's when everything eludes me. The more effort I put in, the harder it gets.